Section 1.2 takes a look at sampling methods. So what are the different ways that you can go about obtaining a sample in order to do your statistical research, give your survey, whatever it is you're going to do? Okay, so again, our big picture idea here is that not all sampling methods are created equal. Okay, not all sampling methods are created equal. So let's say, this is a very popular survey question. We're going to look at the president's approval ratings. Okay, this is something no matter who the president is, no matter what party is in the Oval Office, this is something that's being charted on a daily basis across this nation. So what if for our sampling method, we just decided, we're going to ask our Facebook friends? Can you think of a few things that might be wrong with that in terms of getting a good representation of what the nation thinks of the president? So what this is actually called a convenience sample, or an example of a convenience sample. Okay. Why is it not a good idea to use a convenience sample? Well, I'm hoping you have some intuition about that, just from kind of a practical sense. But literally, it's called convenience for a reason. It's just because it's simple and easy to obtain. Okay, very convenient for you. But from a statistical standpoint, why is it not a good idea? It does not use any randomization techniques. Okay, and we want to get randomization involved anytime we're doing sampling if we want to get a good sample. Okay, so why is randomization important? Now pay attention to these two reasons, okay? Because this is not the same as, but I just asked random Facebook friends. Okay, that's not the point. They're still your Facebook friends, okay? So it's still based on convenience. The fact that you just randomly picked 10 of them is not the same thing as a random sample. Okay, very different things. So why is randomization important? Number one, it chooses a sample in an objective manner. Okay, objective manner. So again, totally fair. All right. And then the other one is that we can't possibly choose a sample that's a proportionate, let me add that word in there first. That's a proportionate cross-section of the population ourselves. Okay, so what does that mean? You and I on our own are not going to obtain a sample that represents this nation in terms of the sample we pick has the right proportion of men versus women, in combination with the right proportion of race, in combination with the right proportion of age groups, in combination with, say, income level, in combination with, education level, in combination, like, do you see where we're going? Okay, we can't do that on our own. There's no way we're going to achieve that goal and make this fair. Okay, so Gallup, as you've probably heard of Gallup before, it is one of the polling companies, organizations, if you will, in the United States. And they do use random sampling to track presidential approval ratings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open this up so you can see what's going on. So here's the job approval as of the day I am recording this video. And you can see here that these are the approval ratings based on Gallup daily tracking averages for 2017 and 2018. Again, pulling up a little bit, and then starting in 2019. You can get more current if you look at this same website now. But we're going to answer a few questions here. Okay, so what is the population? Who is it that they are polling or wanting to poll? So remember, the keyword there is all. All who? Who are they polling? Okay, well, they are polling all U.S. adults. They're not going to be asking, kids what they think. So that's your answer to D, all U.S. adults. I will put that in here and just let me actually close this out. There we go. All right, so what is the population? The population is all U.S. adults. Okay, what is the sample? So again, they didn't sample every single person in the United States. So the sample is just those that they surveyed. Now, we don't have details about that right now, but those people surveyed by Gallup. Okay, and then what is the variable? So in order to get that information, what you kind of think of it as what was the question that they asked, okay? Well, they are asking if they approve or disapprove of the president. Okay, and then classify that variable. What type is it? That is a qualitative variable because it's got like a checkbox kind of an answer. Okay. All right, now again, move this up. We're going to go to the methodology page and we're going to find out how exactly they did this particular survey. So again, making a link here. All right, so again, somewhat dated in that this link has been copied from before, but the methodology is still valid. So they've got their methods in here. So it says they use a daily sampling and interviewing on its tracking survey, and then they report the results as 3-day averages. So they don't just do, it was today, it was tomorrow, it was the next day. Okay, they did it on an average. Then they changed for just a little bit. That's what that next paragraph explains. And then back in 2019, a little over a year ago, they went back and went back to their job approval ratings, going from that three-day average perspective of things. Okay. And you can continue to, there we go. Continue to read here as we go through. So here's more on their methodology. Okay. And in 2008, we went to this new one here. So Gallup's national random digit dialing telephone samples included cell phone interviews for the first time. So we're a few years down the way on that, with most interviews still conducted on landline telephones, but the proportion of cell phone interviews has since steadily increased. In other words, as more and more people get cell phones, they're interviewing more and more people using cell phone numbers. Okay, so there's a little bit about how they do what they do. You kind of have to dig sometimes in websites in order to find that information. So let me cancel that back out of here. Okay, and let's answer a few more questions. So is what we found an example of a simple random sample? Okay, well, first of all, let me define for you what a simple random sample is. And you'll see SRS as an abbreviation for simple random sample. What this means is that every individual has the same chance of being chosen. Okay, so I could have, for example, put your names in a hat, each of the people taking my Math 111 class, and I would pull your name out. That's a simple random sample, okay? No one person has a greater chance than another of being chosen, okay? So in this particular instance, is this a simple random sample? In this case, no. This is not a simple random sample. And the reason why is because the method splits landlines and cell phones. Okay, now it doesn't mean it's a bad method, not at all. It just means it's not a simple random sample. So to be a simple random sample, you would have to put, say, every phone number in the nation in a big old hat, okay, and draw out numbers one at a time, okay? That does not mean necessarily that we will end up with a number of cell phones and landlines that are proportionate to the population, okay? So one important thing to note here, the method does use randomization. So it is statistically sound. Okay, so the key, in order to have a method that is statistically sound, it does have to use randomization in some way, shape, or form. Okay, so how was it done in this case? Well, essentially they took the phone numbers, and instead of putting them all in one giant pot, they put them in two separate pots, okay? A pot labeled landlines and a pot labeled cell phones. And then based on the proportion of people who have a landline versus who have cell phones, let's say, I think now we're up to about 80% of people own cell phones. So they would have drawn, if they needed a sample of 100 people, they would have drawn 80 people at 80 numbers at random from the cell phone pot. And they would have drawn 20 numbers at random from the landline pot. Therefore, they know they're getting 80% cell phone and 20% landline users. Okay, but because it's two separate pots and we didn't throw all those numbers in one giant pot, throwing them in one pot does not guarantee we're going to get 80% cell phone numbers out of there and 20% landline. Okay, but because there is randomization within each pot, they drew the numbers out completely at random, blind drawing or whatever. It does count as a statistically sound method. And you'll see more on why when you watch the next video about how in the world, kind of does that work and how can that really represent us.